Sarah Mikesell with the Poultry Site, and today we're joined by Dr. Alastair Thomas. He is the Global Head of Poultry Nutrition and Health at Anitox. Dr. Thomas is a microbiologist and leads a team of technical experts who operate across 68 countries and provide scientific support and feed additive solutions to customers and partners. Thanks for being with me today, Dr. Thomas.
Pleasure to be here, Sarah. Thank you.
Very good. Today we're going to talk about the hottest topic in the poultry industry, avian influenza. And on-farm biosecurity appears to be the best defense from what we know. Tell me about avian influenza and what you're hearing about the disease from your global team, because you work across the world.
Unfortunately, Sarah, it remains a hot topic. Internationally, varying levels of infection, but there's very few regions where poultry are grown and wild birds exist where you can actually not get the disease. And so the biggest challenge, I think, over the winter, especially here in the US, has been there's been other diseases there as well. So we have avian metapneumovirus, we have LT, which has become particularly a big issue all at once through those winter months in the US. And so that's a big challenge for our producers and our veterinarians. But also, I think what's really emerging over the last 12 months is that prevalence in the dairy herds as well. That's got, the public a bit more worried, and
Right.
obviously it's got the producers worried. And so I think there's no human to human transmission yet, but still that's another source of the infection, which has got a lot of people worried, I think.
Dr. Thomas, what are some of the biosecurity best practices that producers can utilize on farm, wherever you are in the world?
I think experience is the best learning for a lot of things, and what we had with challenges, particularly in 2022, with some of the major breaks there, was biosecurity is by far the best way to manage and mitigate some of this disease. You're not going to eliminate it completely. But I see growers that have been very successful, even when they've been next to very localized outbreaks and have been in those control zones, is by not just having a biosecurity protocol, but having one that you're trained on, you can access easily, and also that you're very fastidious in managing that. And ironically, when I've spoken to veterinarians, they found that in areas where there have been outbreaks of AI, their salmonella has been reduced significantly as well. Just that whole level of biosecurity and attention to that kind of detail really makes a difference across the board, I think, not just for avian influenza, but for other issues that might be there in the poultry house.
Interesting. Let's talk about feed biosecurity specifically. What can producers do?
So there's very little research out there actually on, certainly in poultry, around how viral contamination can occur through the feed. But what I'm seeing from my swine counterparts is certainly there's a strong correlation between feed as a potential vector for things like PRRS and African swine flu. And so I think that certainly there's a capability of feed always to be a vector. Is it the biggest one for some of these viral challenges in poultry? Probably no, but a strong biosecurity protocol and attention to all those potential points of ingress for a virus will only benefit the producer going forward. So where we see it a lot as important is if you've got good biosecurity protocols, you're going to reduce your bacterial challenge, which we know is a problem in animal feed specifically, and corn, soybean meal, meat and bone meal, all those ingredients that go into the poultry diet have been, very well indicated in the research to be vectors for bacterial contamination, for things like salmonella, clostridia, and things like that. And so by hopefully controlling those feed as a potential vector will minimize your risk of getting some of those bacterial challenges.
Why is feed biosecurity so important? And you alluded to this, you're seeing it kind of lower the overall bacterial and viral load to start with, right?
Absolutely. And I think where producers can really, or growers can really start is understanding what's in their feed to begin with, and in their raw ingredients. We see analysis, microbiological analysis of the feed ingredients, and the final feed will give you an indication of where your baseline is for some of these. And it's not going to be a high microbial burden in every single sample, but you need to understand and risk assess where your potential points of challenge or contamination are. And once you've done that, it's okay, is there a mitigation step that we can put in place to reduce the chance of that becoming an issue later on in the bird, and hopefully never further on into the consumer? So by reducing that bacterial challenge up front, it allows you to minimize the risk of contamination, but also we've seen that knock-on effects of overall bird health and gut health development is helped by reducing some of these pathogenic factors in the feed.
Interesting. That's so interesting. And you talked about testing when you started talking there. Is that just a key component to feed, I guess, feed biosecurity? Is you're getting new grains in, that quality of feed can change month to month, I would think, right? So it's important.
Certainly is, Sarah. I think we're very lucky here in the US, where we have very local corn and soybean meal, and so there's not as much of an issue with contamination and long time storage of these feed grains. But in regions outside the US, where these things are shipped internationally and have to travel long distances in elevated temperatures, there's certainly a much higher risk there, I feel, of some of this bacterial contamination and fungal contamination being a problem. So it's certainly the testing, understanding where your baseline is. You're not going to have completely sterile feed in any situation, but you need to know when you've got a consistent level that's managed well, that there's not posing a negative impact on the bird or human health. And then understanding when that goes out of control, what interventions to put in play there to hopefully bring that well within control limits for your relevant production process.
And you did talk about interventions, right? Like, what are some of the solutions that are really out there for producers if you've got a problem, right? You get your testing back and you've got a problem. What are some of the solutions that are available to producers these days?
Well, traditionally, by pelleting feed and heat treatment of feed under pressure has been how feed mills have actually managed that microbial contamination. But research has shown that's not completely infallible, and you still get some contamination that moves through that process, and even down to recontamination within the feed mill. So by employing some feed hygiene measures like chemical applications, either formaldehyde, essential oils, organic acids, all those mitigants can be put into the feed and sprayed on in the feed mill. So not only does it keep your feed mill lines better biocontrolled, it also allows the feed to have that reduction in microbial load. Hopefully, when it gets to the chick in those early sensitive days, when its microbial development in its gut is not fully there and the immune system is relatively naive, the mother's antibodies are reducing. What you want is, you don't want a higher risk of disease issues by having some contaminated feed. So by using those interventions at the feed mill and into the feed will allow you to hopefully keep a cleaner feed mill, cleaner feed, and then hopefully the healthiest bird.
And it sounds like, having good communicationship and a relationship with the feed mill is really a big part of this as well, right? I mean, this isn't just what you do, it's what's happening somewhere else, right?
Oh, absolutely. And unfortunately, no two feed mills are the same, either in structure, design, or management, which makes it a bit of a challenge when you're trying to understand, where potential contamination points are. But I think more and more in the industry, we realize that it's not just a cost center, the feed mill. It can really have some positive impacts on the poultry performance. And by minor modifications and support and really understanding their challenges in the mill, can reap benefits further down the production process for the grow out bird and even forward to processing.
Very good. Well, that's it. The communication component to these kind of things, I think, is always so important to get people talking to people about what the problem is and where you're trying to get to, right?
Absolutely, and when you've seen really effective biosecurity
Right.
protocols and producers which have, in really hot AI areas, for
Yeah.
example, have not broken with the disease. It's when you've got that communication between the feed mill, live production, be that
Right.
veterinarians or the live production managers, and the nutritionists as well. When you've got very little silos in that production process, that by far is reap the benefits for a safer environment for the bird. And the challenges come when there's a lack of communication sometimes, not intentional.
Right.
Everybody wants to grow a healthy, productive bird, but sometimes it's just real life gets in the way. And so, yeah, certainly that communication is really effective. Certainly when you've got to have a rapid response to some of these disease challenges on a viral basis, which you see in current production.
Very good. Well, thank you, Dr. Thomas, for all the information today. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it's been really enjoyable talking to you. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks again. This is Sarah Meixel with the Poultry Site.